Joining me now is writer and broadcaster Esher Krakue. Esther, let's kick off with a foray into US politics. And it was reported this week that Meghan wants to endorse Kamala Harris. Now, we know Meghan has an interest in politics, but she just seems to want to attach herself to anything that'll give her a bit of profile. Was this really necessary?
Well, it's whether it's necessary is one thing, but it's certainly not surprising. So we know that Meghan has shown an interest in politics, particularly from a young age when she wrote that letter to the then president, I believe was Bill Clinton. And more recently, she lobbied Congress for parental leave. Now, we know from sort of people within the Democratic Party that her attempts to actually kind of get closer to people like Governor Gavin Newsom were basically shot down. So she's not really had the kind of in that she wants because she seems to be a radioactive figure at the moment. It's not uncommon for people in the entertainment industry to become politicians. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, look at President Reagan. But I don't think Meghan has the same kind of luck or appeal. In many ways, it's quite interesting that she's likely to endorse Kamala Harris because she kind of is the Kamala Harris of the royal family. She making bullying accusations, getting close and cozy to people like Oprah Winfrey. Making statements that basically don't mean very much. They both have a tendency to spout kind of word salad, psychobabble that doesn't really actually mean very much. So they're actually quite similar figures. I'm sure that Meghan sees herself in Kamala, and I think if she thinks that Kamala has a real chance or actually ends up becoming president, I'm sure that she will feel a bit more of a confidence boost to enter American politics, although I suspect that from her husband and hers kind of complaining about how the media have treated them, I don't think they could handle the kind of cutthroat nature of American media, particularly when you're a politician. So that remains to be seen. But there are also valid questions about her skill. Yes, previous actors that have entered politics have had no direct experience in politics, but I think Meghan is a bit of on the tail end there because she doesn't seem to be a very charismatic or well-liked figure. I think she has a persona that seems for many people a bit fake and curated, kind of like Kamala Harris. They have a similar sort of cackling laugh. It would be difficult to take her seriously because her kind of exposure to the public has mainly just been whinging about the royal family, which doesn't endear yourself to certainly not any audience, but an American audience as well. So I think the advice to stay out of politics is probably wise at the moment. Things could change in the future. But Kamala Harris may become president. The American sort of feeling for people like her may change, but at the moment, certainly it's not a good idea.
And the flip side is a claim that she wants her old carefree actress life back. Esther, I'm not sure she knows what she wants.
I don't think so. I do think that sort of the kind of media coverage that she's had, the exposure, she was basically really kind of rocketed to superstardom in terms of celebrity overnight, just by being associated with a member of the royal family and someone like Prince Harry, who's now, I believe, sixth in line to the throne. But I do think there is some merit to what she's saying about the fact that she wasn't really followed by paparazzi. They didn't follow her into restaurants. She was kind of famous adjacent. She had some sort of B-list roles in a few shows, and she was comfortable. She had a blog and all of that, but she wasn't as famous as she is now. So I think maybe she's citing the level of media intrusion just because of who she is now. But I certainly don't think she wants the life in terms of not having had her kids or meeting Prince Harry, or certainly not having the likes of the Clooneys or Oprah Winfrey at her wedding. I think there are aspects of her fame now that have certainly benefited her that she certainly wouldn't have even dreamed of having access to. I mean, how many people get to literally marry a prince, become members of the royal family, meet the Queen, then profit off slagging off the institution that basically made her world famous. So I understand her point, but I don't think she wants it in its entirety, and she's living a much lavish lifestyle than she's ever had.
Now, there have been murmurings for some time about Meghan's expose, but a report this week says that it's pending legal advice. Now, look, that's obviously very prudent, but it also raises some eyebrows about the potential content.
Yes, there is that, but I think the bigger fear is the litigious nature of the Sussexes. we know that they will most likely sue because their image and how they're presented to the media is very important to them. We can see that in Prince Harry's sort of vendetta against the British media. That's the only thing he's literally been flying back and forth to the UK from on a regular basis outside of his Invictus games. So we know that no matter what comes out, they are likely to sue. So the German broadcaster ZDF, which have commissioned this documentary, they're trying to cover all bases. They've been interviewing people like the Sussex's neighbor in Montecito, an elderly man called Frank, who's doesn't find the couple to be very friendly. Apparently, they left him standing in front of their door and just has rebuffed their advances, his advances to try and be close to the couple. They've been interviewing members of or people from Meghan's past. I don't know if they got access to her ex-husband, but again, that could be another bombshell moment. But really, there's this huge intrigue into her life now and her life, previously before she met Prince Harry. And I'm sure that there are elements of that Meghan and Harry don't want out there, particularly if, as you say, she has ambitions to enter politics. I mean, that's the kind of thing that's the kind of stain that you just cannot remove. And I'm sure it will do them no favors. And at that point, if they have sort of a plethora of people from her past and present saying things that contradict the kind of narrative or picture she wants to paint of herself, it would be really difficult for her to play the victim. Because if 100 people are saying one thing and you're saying something else, I don't think the public will be very convinced.
No, I think that's fair. Now, look, an interesting piece in the UK Telegraph this week about the palace redefining itself for the King's reign and publishing a new set of written values. How have those values been updated?
So the new values that have been published by the palace have included things like staying curious and trying to shape a better world. Really kind of fluffier, more almost entrepreneurial and ambitious language. But I think it keeps in line with the kind of change, fairly radical change, that the king has always said he wants to undergo, which is slimming down the royal family. So they're going to focus on the core members of the royal family and try and exploit what they do to the max, trying to get them really focused on initiatives that can make the most out of the few members of the royal family that it has left. So you can see they've kind of sidelined Zara Tindall and her husband, Beatrix, and all of the other kind of more peripheral members of the royal family. The Sussexes have long gone, but again, the royal family has maintained that kind of separation between the core members of the royal family and the more auxiliary members will remain in place. So it's just kind of marketing to indicate what the king is looking to do. And it's also in line with kind of slimming down the costs of the royal family. We know that many royal estates are undergoing significant renovations, which are costing hundreds of millions of pounds. And so because of that, they also have to kind of negotiate how to make the most out of the working members of the royal family, to make the most impact, but also to be the most cost effective.
Now, I've only got a little less than a minute for you, but the New York Times had an interesting piece this week about the royal finances and the revenue that they receive from offshore wind farms and the like. Can you run us through this?
Yeah, so the royal so the land on the sort of Crown Estate that is for underwater seabeds have received a boost because the government has decided to commission more offshore wind farms. So that has contributed to rising profits in the sort of the Crown Estate. Now the actual royal family only gets about 12% of in terms of the sovereign grant, so the profits that is made from the Crown Estate, and the rest, I believe 88% of it, goes to the government to use for the public interest, as it's called. So that's why they're seeing a revenue boost. Also, tourism for the royal households have returned to pre-COVID levels. So that's also given a boost to the royal finances, which is why you're seeing a bit of a pay rise for the king and the royal family to conduct their activities.
Esher Krakue, as always, thank you so much for joining us.